most reasonable, sane, non-hysterical Australians wouldn't begrudge the Prime Minister a few days home with his family, or a few hours at the football watching his beloved Sharks. After working 100-hour weeks for months, the Prime Minister announced that he was taking a short break to join his wife Jenny and two daughters Abbey and Lily on their school holidays. But he was still working and by no means standing aside. On Saturday night, the Prime Minister joined thousands of rugby league fans to watch Cronulla take on the Penrith Panthers. He even had a beer at the game and waved his scarf along with other fans. That was enough to send the hysterical haters on Twitter into fits of outrage. The very same people who characterise any criticism of Victorian Premier Dan Andrews' mismanagement of the crisis as divisive and unnecessary are all too happy to lay the boots into the Prime Minister, who, unlike Andrews, hasn't made a series of dreadful mistakes. These were the same people who blamed Scott Morrison for the bushfires, a natural disaster that had nothing to do with the leader of the country. They again took to social media to condemn the Prime Minister and to hold him personally responsible for the hardship being endured by Victorians. We can't expect much from the Twitter blowhards, but I have to say I was disappointed to see the likes of normally sensible centre-left commentators like Caroline Overington joining the mob with this piece in The Australian. Overington claimed the PM had put his foot in it. She wrote, "Like a man who hasn't spent 5 minutes in the marketing department, Morrison on Saturday night turned up at the football swirling a scarf around his head. It was such a bad look, such a dumb thing to do. It was the first weekend of the second Melbourne lockdown. 5 million people are back behind closed doors. There's no football here. There are no beers with the boys, no grandkids climbing onto grandma's knee. There's no nothing." Really? You want to guilt the PM for the Victorian government's shambolic mishandling of the crisis? It wasn't Scott Morrison who entrusted poorly trained security guards, some with as little as 5 minutes training, to monitor overseas arrivals in hotel quarantine, instead of using the police and the army like every other state. It wasn't Scott Morrison who consistently botched the response in Victoria, so much so that despite having the harshest restrictions in the country and being the slowest to come out of lockdown, Victoria has a second wave while other states reopen their economies. I can tell you as a Victorian, it's hard watching every other state and territory return to a new normal, with restaurants open, schools open, and thousands watching football games when Victoria is in crisis mode. And I don't blame Scott Morrison for Victoria's plight, because he had nothing to do with the many mistakes that got us here. But the blowhards on Twitter have a different take. Here are some verified accounts condemning Morrison for a couple of hours at the footy. Let's start with former Senator Darren Hinch. He posted, "Wrong, wrong, wrong. ScoMo is entitled to time with his kids, but going to the football was a Hawaii-sized PR blunder in a national health crisis." Then there's Channel 9 host David Campbell, who posted, "I'm dumbfounded and disappointed that the PM has taken a week off. I have hesitated criticising all leaders. There is no roadmap for what we are living through. This is so tone deaf. It's Hawaii 2.0. Essential workers are not having a holiday. People lost their jobs." A couple of hours ago, Campbell tweeted again to advise the PM's office had been in touch with him and told him that Scott Morrison was not on holiday. But there was no apology from Campbell. Channel 9's The Project loves a cheap shot, and they posted this. "Nothing quite like the sweet family bonding time of downing a beer while watching the footy. Nowhere near your kids." And here's a tweet from Labor MP Josh Burns. "Yesterday, 49 Victorians were admitted to hospital. 8 healthcare workers at the Alfred Hospital tested positive, and the PM sank beers at the rugby. Same as Trump playing golf." And a number of Dan Andrews fanboys posted this side-by-side of the Victorian Premier and Scott Morrison. Yes, apparently it would be a much safer country if Dan Andrews was in charge. By the way, that picture of Dan Andrews hard at work was posted by his wife, Catherine, on Saturday evening with the pointed caption, "This man does not stop."